come together today to ask you to have good, solid debate on county business, and that we make decisions for the county. All these things we say in their name.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honorable Texas flag, which allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Okay, I want to say welcome to everybody for being here with us today. This time we're going to do a roll call. I'm sure everyone's present with the exception of Mr. Baker, who is still in recovery, but I think he's doing somewhat better. We thought he was going to be here today, but I think he's still in the part of pain, so he's decided to hold off one more time. At this time, do we have any citizens' comments? Okay. Let's go then to item number 6, and that's going to be our consent agenda. I hope that y'all have a chance to go through the consent agenda. At this time, we'll open it up for any discussion or any motions.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
We do have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? No, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We're going to take a little bit of, we're going to move around a little bit today because we got some folks here joining us. And so, but right now, let's go ahead and talk about the most important thing that we talked about, and that's the county burn ban. I think after last night, we shouldn't have to take any action on that, so we're going to pass item number 7 over, okay? The next item that I'd like to do is to go ahead and recognize item number 10 is recognition of the Limestone County Historical Commission for receiving the Distinguished Service Award. We have that award here. Mr. Reagan, if you'd like to come forward. This is a, I don't know if you're going to get a picture of this. Texas Historical Commission presents this 2020 Distinguished Service Award to the Limestone County Historical Commission in recognition of its active and well-balanced preservation program. It's signed by Mark Wolf, the Executive Director of the Texas Historical Commission. We want to say thank you so much to these folks. They work hard. They work on that building. But anyway, these guys do a lot of hard work. I get involved in a little bit, but not much. I want to say thank y'all to y'all and give y'all this award right here. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's go ahead then and go to item number 8, and that's going to be discussion take action on refinancing the county jail. We've got Jeff here. Jeff, if you want to come forward, and you want to, yeah, y'all can both come up if you like, or you can come over here and sit. Actually, we're going to pull that one chair around. Y'all can both sit up here so we can hear you pretty good. I'll let you introduce yourselves and then we'll go Jeff.
Jason Hughes.
Jason Hughes is with security, yes. So at this time, what we're talking about primarily is how we want to refinance the monies that we got on our jail, our Limestone County Law Enforcement Jail. And, you know, as y'all remember, in months past, we talked about putting that money that we got from the prison over to pay it down and then see if we can redo our bond and get a lower interest rate and save the county some money. So at this time, Jeff, I'll let you tell us all the good news that you have.
Yes, sir. All right. Good to see y'all again. Jeff Colvis with McCall Parkers. I met with all y'all 6 weeks or so ago. And this is Jason Hughes with Hilltop Security. So we're not affiliated. We just happen to work together on a lot of different cities and counties. And I've worked 14, 15 years together with Steve Mejia. So, Steve Mejia, he's one who kind of put us in touch with y'all. So I handle the legal aspects, as y'all remember from our last conversation. Jason is the numbers finance guy that works to make sure structures work, get y'all the best interest rate. Let me update y'all on where, last time we talked, I said I was gonna explore and look at that transaction which did the jail in 2009, did get my hands on all the documents. I told y'all I'd come back and we could kind of come up with a roadmap. So I do have good news. First, it's obviously one thing that never changed, so we can leave that entire transaction in place and try to do a refinancing. You leave the PFC structure, everything looks the same, the PFC continues to own the jail, we have this ground lease, we have the lease agreements, we try to drop the interest rate. Now, as I said, and Jason will be able to give more insight into that, those are unusual transactions, not unheard of, but unusual, and due to that, they carry a higher rate of interest. Simply, it's not well understood and really well liked by bondholders. So you do pay more in the interest. Now, I told you I would discover potentially a second option, which is for the county simply to issue its own debt to buy the jail from your own county LPSC. I did have a lot of conversations with the Texas Attorney General's office because they're required by law to approve all bond issues in the state. They did approve the prior one. So kind of explained to them, I said it's a little unusual, but got their pre-clearance. So that's a huge hurdle that we've already crossed at the AG. I explained my legal reasoning, the analysis, and this, and we're good. What that would entail is the county would issue its own debt, probably certificates of obligation, committee counties do use, simply issue those to acquire the jail. Buy the jail from the PFC, title would transfer, invest from the PFC back into the county. At that point, we can terminate all those underlying arrangements. We terminate the leases, we discontinue the use of the PFC. This is a much cleaner, much simpler transaction. And as Jason can explain, the cost savings are really going to be substantial if y'all go that route. You're already paying yourselves anyway on this arrangement. And as I told y'all, I'm not sure the background why this arrangement was chosen in 2009 anyway. I have found a pattern. There's several other counties throughout the state with same players involved, about the same time period. So my guess is somebody kind of got a little niche college industry to do these. But so that's my recommendation would be to go forward. If y'all have questions about certificates of obligation, all that. That was a hot topic in this session with House Bill 1869, notably, fortunately for counties. Jails are exempt from some of the provisions of that legislation, so really does no harm. And again, COs are very common tool for counties, for jails, and a lot of streets, roads, solid waste projects, and that type of thing. But like I said, Jason's here, and he's the numbers guy. He can explain to y'all what the cost would be.
Okay, let me say real quick, just so that I understand it, and I certainly want the news to understand it. So you say that we're gonna go in debt, we're already in debt. So it's not like we're going into new debt. We're just trying to figure out a way to financially pay for it better for the county.
Well, it's a great point. And although it would be an issue of debt, it's essentially a refinancing. And we're gonna take the proceeds of the new debt and we're gonna use it combined with the cash you have, and we're gonna pay off the old debt. So although you're applying jail, it really is, you're correct, Judge, more of a refinance.
In conversation with the AG's office, this doesn't violate the 1948.
No, and I know y'all have had a lot of conversations about that. I'd love to at some point, y'all have to give me some background, but any county debt does establish an interest and sinking fund, which is required by the Constitution, and that's 2% every year of the annual principal and interest requirements. It's a nominal amount, but it is a constitutional requirement. It has not been a hiccup for any city or county I've ever worked with. So again, I'd love to know the concerns y'all do have with the establishment of interest and sinking fund, but it is a constitutional requirement and bond requirement.
Well, Judge Duncan, Commissioners, it's good to be here. What you have in front of you is just a one-page summary, and this is the financial aspect of what Jeff just went through. So what it does is it compares if you maintain the same structure, and that again is that public facility corporation that's in the dark blue, versus if you went and issued certificates of obligation, which is in the light blue. Let me just kind of walk left to right quickly to kind of go through this. So column B is your current debt service. The interest rates on that right now, your coupon that you're paying on that ranges from 5.5% to 5.75%. So, and again, this kind of goes back to what Jeff was talking. Whenever investors buy this type of bond, they get compensated more in the form of higher interest rates because it is a little bit riskier credit. That's not a knock on you. You've made your payments. You've done what you set out to do in 2009. That's just a fact. It is a riskier credit. It's subject to non-appropriation on an annual basis. So because of that, again, we have a higher interest rate. In column C, D, or C through G, let's say. So that again is at the PFC. We maintain the same structure. We go and refinance. A couple of things that I would point out. You have a debt service reserve fund right now. Okay, so on the bond you issued in 2009, and that's kind of a safety measure, if you will, for those investors that hold those bonds, where in any given year you don't make those payments or don't have the revenues to make those payments, they can tap that reserve fund. Again, that's a function of it being a lower credit. But we do factor that in here. The assumption would be is if we maintain the same structure, then we would go out, we'd issue refunding bonds. You would still have to maintain a debt service reserve fund. And then you come up with your new debt service, that's column F, and then what you're most interested in is column G. So the savings, the projected savings, I should say, is about $625,000. Now I say projected because one of the things, as Jeff has gone through on the legal side and kind of done some homework, we're going to go through on the financial side. And one of the things that we would try to do is we would try to potentially get these bonds rated. So this is an educated kind of guess as far as where the interest rate is. And just for reference, the interest rate I'm assuming here is 3.5%. And that's in kind of talking to my underwriting desk and asking what they thought about the credit. So 3.5% is the assumption on C through G.
And none of
Yes,
these figures in this particular area reflect us paying the 3.75 million that we have to apply to debt.
There is no contribution, if you will, of 3.75 million.
Okay.
It's just
So
taking that-
these figures would change substantially
if you
if
had,
we applied the 3.75 million to this.
But you are counting the 1 million in reserve business.
yes, I am.
But you're not counting the 3.5 or whatever that is.
I did not count the 3. I did not count anything other than the reserve.
Well, but you said if we go this route, the reserve have to stay there.
What
So
we
it's
would
not
do,
applying to debt.
we contribute, and this is because of tax law, we would contribute your old reserve fund, right? Because we're taking out these bonds in column B, and we would establish a new reserve fund. And that's what's shown in column E.
Okay.
So that
It stays
red
there.
figure in the 1.2 with the lease revenue, and it'd be the same for any water sewer utility bonds, you have to maintain that. So while it may come down based on the newer debt service, it's still gonna be money locked up in
Yeah.
the line.
Okay, but I just want to make sure this 13,429,000 does not have the 3.75 million.
It does not. Yes, sir, that's correct. That's correct. So let's kind of go H through L. So this would be, as Jeff was talking about, if you did a direct financing, so to speak. So this would be certificates of obligation, which would be backed by ad valorem taxes. However, they can still be repaid with the same revenue stream. Okay, so you don't have to, if you have those same revenues that are coming in or some kind of revenue stream coming in, then you can use that to repay that debt. Because of that, whenever the rating agencies look at that, it is a much higher rated credit. It becomes an investment grade credit, being, again, highly rated, very secure. And so obviously as your credit rating goes up, the interest rate goes down. And so just to kind of give you an idea, the interest rate on this, basically the market rate was 1.35%. So you can see the spread there, 1.35% versus 3.5%. The other thing is if you issue certificates of obligation because of a high credit rating and the security of it, you don't have to fund that debt service reserve fund. So right now, going back to the debt that you have outstanding, you have what I saw, at least in what I had, was about 1.3 million, give or take, in your debt service reserve fund. That's sitting there. It has to sit there until those bonds are paid off. We wipe that out because again, we don't have to have that. So we don't have dollars just sitting there earning nothing right now. So by doing that and with that structure, what is estimated here, if you go all the way over to column L, or saving $280,000 annually from what you're paying now. Commissioner, to your point, if you had 3.75 million that you could contribute, you could absolutely contribute it to this as well. It does not take that into account, just like it doesn't here. So this is just simply contributing the existing reserve fund and issuing those certificates.
Okay, to make sure I understand,
Yes, sir.
using the Limestone County certificates of obligation, we can apply to 3.75 and 1.3 or
Yes, sir.
1.25 or whatever it comes out to be in the reserve fund, both the principal.
You could, and so what's going to happen if you were to do that, you see column H, the principal on the certificates of obligation is about 9.5 million, and that's just going to drop that, right? Because that simply means we're issuing less debt, right? If we have other funds that we can contribute to that. So.
And I hate to keep interrupting you, but
No,
ask the question
That's what
one
we're here
way.
for.
If we elect, and I know Judge and I have talked about this, we apply the things and the 3.75 or 3.5 or whatever we end up applying, and the 1.25 or whatever that ends up being. And then we elect to keep our payments similar to what they have been.
You can pay it off sooner.
Pay it off sooner. Would that affect our bond, our interest rate? Could we get it a little cheaper because it's less
Yes,
amount?
sir. So to the extent that you're paying off your debt quicker and not amortizing it over as long of a period, yes, that interest rate is going to decrease.
So there is an advantage to us going back to maybe 5 years instead of leaving it sticking out there.
Absolutely. So if you wanted to contribute some of those, we could amortize it again over a shorter period of time. Just all that means you're out of debt quicker, right? You're paying a lower interest rate on those COs and you're out of debt sooner.
And the thing that's not concerning, but I was just in my mind, we got rated pretty good on this previous one, did we not, on our rating? I was surprised that we got,
I know the underlying bonds
Was it
were
A-
unrated.
A plus?
I was trying to look up if y'all, my recollection is y'all did not have a bond rating, but I'm checking on that as well.
Because of the 1948 law, we can't go in debt.
we did.
Even though we are in
The
debt.
other company did, which is Limestone County too.
Right.
We
We
had
can
to,
certainly go back.
we had to do something for them to come up with a, on how to sell it as far as.
So you can sell non-rated debt.
Okay.
So there's absolutely a market for it. It's just, as like I went through
Then-
that market's, maybe 2% higher.
But you're thinking right now, you feel comfortable that we're somewhere less than 1.5%?
Based on the CO structure and what I have been able to look at to this point, yes. Now, obviously, the market, if you decide, okay, we're going to go and issue COs, it goes without saying the interest rates can move, right? But today, yes, based on the current market, we're less than 1.5%.
And that's based on paying it out to all the way to 2032.
That's based on the current structure, yes, sir.
We sold 10-year bonds for Smith County yesterday. Commissioners Court's approving it today. This shows 11 years, Smith County was 10 years, it's 1.07.
Well, it's kind of a no-brainer that that's what we do. I'm a little leery, and I guess I'm just looking for problems. But you said you didn't find Limestone County, that road and bridge law, which has been argued that it only applies to road and bridge. And I hope that's correct. But like you say, you haven't been able to investigate that. That is a special law that was, you said you didn't see it in the other counties. No,
It's 1930,
1948.
1948.
Okay, I believe that's correct.
Right.
I believe that's correct. I could be wrong.
Right.
But that law only applied to Limestone County. That's the reason you don't see any other. Limestone County was, I've been told, basically broke, and they passed, the legislature passed that law, and we've adhered to it. All previous commissioners have, and it probably is antiquated, but we don't want to violate that.
Well,
We may want to change that, but we don't want to violate it.
No, certainly, and in that era, the founders of our law firm were very active in that era. And there's a lot of very bizarre laws that only through narrative hand-me-downs from my private partners are we aware of. And, yeah, I can tell you part of our job when we do this is to give the county a legal opinion that any transaction is legal and valid and compliant with state law. And I tell you, we would tap the brakes if we ran into any hiccups. But all of these statutes that have come, particularly the CO Act, which we got in 1979, it's been amended since then, supersede, and plus we have the constitutional limitation requirement for interest and safety. So,
Attorney General says it's okay.
Let me just say that I know what you're saying, Mark, I thought the same thing, but we're already, if you went by that, scenario that features there, we're already in violation because the board that was paying for this, the lease, they're not getting money anymore. So we're asking the taxpayers to do this every year right now. 1.2 million, right? Per year, we're budgeting that amount, so it's almost a hiccup.
And that was done 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes.
When the private prison was vacant.
Okay. What else you guys think?
A lot of good news.
Any other questions we can review on talk timing?
yeah, I was gonna say, to me, it's obviously the decision of the commissioner's court. You don't have to make it to today. I'll tell you, you get these two scenarios. In my mind, it's a no-brainer. Not only simply because of the dollars, but the simplicity of county administration, county management of this. So as Jason said, the CO process is basically a two commissioners court meeting process where in a future commissioners court, keep in mind, we're backing into a November 1, 2021. That's the first day we can redeem and take those prior bonds from the bottom. So it's two commissioners meeting process, one where we approve what's called a notice of intent to issue. Publish that, and I'll handle all that. The first meeting is very ministerial. Lots of folks go on consent agenda. Just specifies that we're going to issue the COs and gives a maximum dollar amount. There's 2 publications. We have that 45 days after the first publication until the second commissioner's court meeting. That's the big one where we would come back. The bonds will have been sold. Whatever method of sale that Jason and his team would recommend. And we can present to you the final interest rates, the final savings, everything will come to y'all with a box of no on it and all the documents that need to be signed, including unwinding the prior transaction. Following that meeting, I filed the transaction formally with the Texas Attorney General's office. But again, I already got the pre-clearance on this. And we will close and pay off those prior bonds on November 1.
The other thing that I would add too is to Jeff's point, so you approve that notice of intent on the front end. Let's say in between then and whenever we get ready to sell the bonds, interest rates go up 2%. We simply don't have to do anything, right? As he said, we can tap the brakes. So the nice thing is it doesn't lock you into anything at that point. It gives us the ability to go out, gives you the ability to issue debt. You still have to approve that. And again, as Jeff said, once we come back to you and sit down and say, okay, this is how much we sold on COs, this is the interest rate, it's locked in for the life of the bonds, if we've had any kind of contributions and downsides, that all of that stuff is known at that time. So it gives you the certainty of knowing that before you approve it.
Judge,
Yes.
there's a copy of that law.
I don't know, I've read it about 50
I didn't know if I
I've
had it down there.
I've got it. It's 1947 or 27.
And there's, every word in there is about the road bridge, but basically, I get it why they did it back then, but I don't see how it applies. And then I've talked to several attorneys about this, and every one of them agrees they don't see how it applies. We're already in debt.
Well, basically, if the Attorney General says this is not a hindrance to this, then it's a no-brainer about what we do.
But, and we're not issuing road and bridge bonds anyway, but it's really not uncommon to find these, especially from the 30s, when we were unwinding the losses in counties after the Great Depression, that you find laws that are not general applicable any longer. Yeah, heck, we're coming on 100 years of it.
So no matter what that says, we're gonna go from 5.5, 5.75, down to hopefully 1.35, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yes. I always brag that I finished in the top 85% of my class, but I think I can do that. All right. Anything else?
So,
Well, it also allows us, Judge, to apply that, regardless of what we do with 3.5 million or whatever, which obviously we would apply it to this debt, my thinking. But it frees up that 1.2 million to apply it in also,
Yes, sir.
and then that money's making us nothing.
That's right.
and then
That's a lot of money to sit there and not make it.
That's why a lot of folks really hate reserve funds. They're a required bond covenant. But that's why so many cities have moved away from water and sewer bonds and issuing certificates of obligation. They don't want that money sitting there for 20 years. They don't know. So, no, Judge, unless y'all have any other questions, that's it. I would just say, whatever is the direction of the Commissioners Court, let us know, so we can be prepared to get a calendar if y'all want to proceed, and then prepare documentation for them.
Judge, could we ask for this too, ask y'all for this, to look at maybe, assumption that we do it. Assumption that we apply whatever the figure is in the reserve, and that we apply, use around figure 3.5 million to the debt, to look at what the difference in the payments would be if we backed up to 5 years instead of 10. I assume we would probably do this for 10. You've got to draw that here for that.
And I think you're sticking with the original plan.
That's exactly it.
Okay,
Yeah,
you would-
I just
as far as
made
this
the exact
proposal,
same.
okay.
Yes, sir.
But if we backed up to 5 or to 7, and if that bond savings would be 1.3 as opposed to 1.2 or 1.15,
Yes, sir.
if we went back to 5.
I can
Because
absolutely
it's
do
built, the payment's built in there right now, 1.2 million. So I guess we'd like to see one proposal with the principal being, or with the payments being based on 1.2 million.
Yes, sir. I can do that.
And then as Jason said, if the county wants to proceed, we can take that first step in the upcoming Commissioners Court meeting. And then we've got a couple months to play with scenarios. What you may not want to do is decide on a scenario on the front end, because we know this. And, as we all know, you read the papers, who knows what.
Well, the one thing too, and you may have said this, Mr. Judge, but whenever you approve a notice of intent, so what is required in there is a not to exceed amount. And so what I would recommend is going in on that notice of intent, but the highest amount that we think, if again, that's simply a not to exceed, if during that time after, before we sell, you decide, okay, we're going to use 3.5, or let's just say it's 2 for whatever reason, then we have the latitude to sell that, and we'll simply scale down the amount of COs that we issue and just match that based on contribution that you're going to put in.
All right, guys, well, thank you for coming, and give us that information. I think we're headed in the right way for the citizens of Limestone County.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for your expertise. Do you read that in your spare time?
What's funny is when Judge get mentioned it, I had one of the associates from office at 270. He looked and looked, and finally, it's from the 40s. I said, "I'll take care."
Thank you very much.
Y'all have a good day.
All right, thank you.
Let's go ahead then and move on to item number 9, which will discuss this action on proposed tax abatement application for Limestone Union Project LLC.
Going up there or over here?
Either way, you can sit over here if you like.
Perfect.
Thank you, Phil.
Yep, I'm Brandon Westlake, I'm with Cummings Westlake. We are hired to represent Engie, who will be the owner and operator of the Limestone Wind Project. This is, for lack of better words, kind of phase 2 of the Prairie Hill project that they discussed. We've got 102 megawatts right now. They're estimated to be located in Limestone. It's going to be split between Limestone and Navarro, just with the way the siting lands. They have not done final siting, so that 102 can change. They, once they get in, kind of have a good idea, get the abatements in place. We're working with both school districts and Navarro County right now to secure the 313s and the 312s. Once that's done, they can kind of start to move forward a little more on the project. They'll have to, check the ground, that their, location of turbines can change. So that 102 is kind of up in the air right now, but that's pretty close to probably what it'll be. They're looking to start construction first quarter of next year and be done by the end of next year. So we would look to start the abatement in 2023. So that's kind of when your first pilot payments would come in, would be end of 23, early 24. I don't know how y'all, again, that's negotiable in the tax abatement itself. So if y'all like to take the payment before the end of the year, that's something we can do. If y'all like to take it when taxes come in, also something that you can do. This project's in the north part of the county. I think Prairie Hill is either, this is either just east of Prairie Hill or Prairie Hill is just east of this project. We've got a map in the application of the location. We're looking at about 107 million in investment. That's not taxable value. The first year would probably be somewhere in the mid-90s, give or take, depending on when final construction ends and how long it's been operating. That's kind of the 30,000 foot view. If y'all have any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
As you know, probably, we get hit all the time with different wind farms wanting to come. It's just a thing that's happening right now. The size of this is relatively small, a lot smaller than the Prairie Hill, correct?
Right. Well, I think it's 240 overall. And right now, the way they're seeing it is 102 here in Limestone and the 140 in Navarro. But, like I said, that can change. The proposed reinvestment zone, the land they have leased on that map, has room for additional turbines here.
But basically, what you're asking for is a payment in lieu of taxes in the same amount that we gave to Prairie Hill, which was around, what was that? 15, let's see what this was.
I did
10,060? No, that's not true. Let me look here.
I did
1,040.
So I pulled that, so I just finished an agreement in Scurry County. That's the latest one that seems kind of about market. We're seeing stuff around that. So what I did is actually after I filed this, I looked at Hubbard Wind that y'all just recently did.
Right.
And I believe, I haven't seen that agreement, but in the paper, it said that was maybe on a per turbine basis. Okay, that's just, like I said, maybe that's how it got broke down. What I did is I took that project, said it was 300 megawatts and a $340,000 annual payment. That's $11.33 and 33 cents a megawatt. So that's what we would be happy to fall in line with that.
Would you be happier with anything more than that, Chris?
I'd have to look and see what it is. So when I looked at it, based on what we were estimating the value, that came out to probably somewhere around a 63% abatement. The market we're seeing is somewhere around 70 on these. And so we are kind of, y'all are a little above market. It's not enough, I don't think, to derail the project. But with having to, do Navarro and all those, we're just trying to keep everybody in the same playing field. And with Hubbard being a competitor of this project, we'd like to be on the same, the same liability, because we've got to go out and sell the PPA just like they do. And any tax liability or expense that's greater or lower gives an advantage one way or the other.
What's the gross amount? 100,000 or so? Or is it tax?
Yeah, so if we did equal to Hubbard, on the 1133, I've got, so Hubbard was 300, we're at 102, so you're looking at 115,600 is what the payment would be equalized to Hubbard's side. And again, right now, we don't have to agree to terms. This is just kind of putting it out there, getting the discussion started, but just wanted to, get the application in front of the court. Because we would need a reinvestment zone and the 30-day notice to do that. So we've got all those fun obligations.
Well, I think that's something that we certainly could investigate here. I know I want to read this. This was kind of brought to me kind of in the dark, if you will.
Okay.
I didn't hear from you. I didn't hear from anybody else. I want to make sure what the amount that you're wanting to pay for the legal expenses. We've kind of set a certain amount for that, so I want to make sure that's in there. But I have no problem with approving the reinvestment zone. That's primarily what we're doing today.
Yeah, I think we just get that notice in the paper, get that going, and if we want to, once the reinvestment zone's issued, we can have more conversations in between now and that point.
Okay.
And then maybe at that meeting, we can issue the 30-day notice for the hearing on the agreement at that point.
Absolutely.
And this is me thinking this. I mean, obviously, we're going to do the reinvestment zone and so forth. And you're basing everything on a bigger price. It's just like if you go out and buy 500 acres of land, you might buy it at $3,000 an acre. In today's world, you might buy it at $5,000 an acre. But then if you sell 22 acres, they may sell for $10,000.
Right.
So we might want to, it's not a fair analogy to compare it to a larger project. So that 115, we might want 140 or, but we can talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the other thing is when you've got a bigger project like that, right, they get the benefit of economies of scale, where we're paying more on the, maybe not to you, but right, the cost to build the project is higher per megawatt than they have. And so we're already in a worse off position on the investment side as them, so. But yeah, absolutely, everything's kind of up for discussion.
All of that's discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do y'all use as outside counsel on these?
We used Bass.
Bob, okay, perfect. I've done, working on 3 or 4 agreements with him right now. So and I'm very comfortable with his fee structure, so we're good with reimbursement on that side.
Any other discussion on this? You may want to look at the map here, there's 31 turbines thereabouts proposed. And this is primarily, of course, that's Limestone County, but this is going to be a shot in the arm to the Coolidge ISD.
Absolutely, yeah, we're working on
Coolidge
the.
ISD may be the school district in the future, but also.
Yeah, I mean,
Get a lot of money.
it's getting those in now because the House bill was a 4242 that you can get voted on, so we're gonna have at least a year gap where we can't do anything with the school district, so.
All right. I would.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate y'all's time.
I recommend that we, today, go ahead and accept for record, accepting the applications and depositing their $1,000 and then the school direction will be open.
Looking for a motion. So,
Motion and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and,
One last question. Do y'all want me just to reach out directly to Bob? I can forward him the application I've sent, or do you want to?
that'd be fine.
Okay, and I'll copy you when I reach out to Bob on it, and then we can get that going as well.
All right.
All right, well, I appreciate
Thank you.
y'all's time. Thank you very much.
Let's go ahead and just start going down the list here. I know we've got some bids to open up here in a second. Next item is item number 11. That is going to be discussing or take action on purchase of a tractor for the fairgrounds. This is something that has been kicked around for at least since June of 2018 when I came on board. One of the complaints that I hear, and I'll let Kenneth address this a little bit more, is that the grounds at our the dirt at our fairgrounds doesn't get turned over enough to make it attractive for some of these larger boats wanting to come in. And so we tried to buy another drag, still didn't do what we needed to do. And one of the things that we're having is we're constantly working on tractors to make sure he's got it going. So one of the things I was hoping that we could do is with some of this, use our contingency fund to think about buying a tractor and then use some of our unanticipated revenue this year, and we'll do a transfer next month of the monies that we're getting, because we're getting quite a bit of monies into Limestone County. This is a 10-year, how long is the tractor last?
Well, this
10
tractor,
or 12 years?
this tractor is 13 years old.
Okay, so we know that for the next 10 or 11, 12, 13 years, we're solving a problem, I hope, at the fairgrounds. I think in your package, you've each got a bid.
No, I have a bid here.
You have a bid, let me go ahead and have it right now. So we go. And these were not, because it's under 50,000, these are quotes. We won't call them bids, we'll call them quotes. We got basically 2, if I understand correctly.
Yes, sir. We have one for Owen and,
Now, is this, you know I call them squeeze them all.
I know, it is up on one of them, but it didn't.
Now, on the vote, is that with the 1,000 I got on the takeoff?
Well, I expected there to be some difference in the price, obviously, because to me, John Deere's a better tractor. Now,
Is that a Ford Chevrolet talking, or is that?
well, it's just the people I've talked to, like, Jerry, for example. I wish he could be here because I think Road and Bridge bought some Kubotans and had some problems with them. And I've talked to some other people since then that, said they just don't know roads as well as John Deere. Now, there you go, that's Ford Chevrolet.
I was gonna say, I hear the exact opposite sometimes.
Well, sure, you will too, you know, until you actually, I mean, it's like anything else, you might buy this, and it's a good machine, you buy the next one, it's not, it's the same machine, so. Anyway, but, what you said, I'm gonna reiterate, because I don't know, how much you keep up with it, but, these events we have out there are drawing some people with some very expensive animals. And we want to make sure that we are as safe as possible with the ground. And, you know, it's not like it was back in the old days whenever an arena was just sand and you took something and drug it level. Nowadays, you have to go in and work the ground, especially the ground that we have. You have to work it and recondition it. And these bigger machines can do that quicker during an event, because they don't want to sit there and wait for an hour for me to go in there and redo the ground. You know, we need to be able to do it in 15 or 20 minutes. So,
Do I understand you're gonna trade in one of them or sell one of them that you have?
well, what we have, and, let me, give you this. This is, a crude drawing of the drag that we have. And if you'll look, one on the top is one we have, and it's a 7-foot. And these, what's called dig tips, what rips the ground up, it only has one row. If you look at the bottom, the bigger drag has 2 rows, which makes it kind of like a cultivator, and y'all understand what those are. It breaks up more ground, because you have these are alternating. So anyway, we've had 2 different producers come in and actually bring their own equipment, and they have this bigger drag, and I've seen it work.
We have these drags now.
We have the small one.
one that's not
The big one is the one that we would want to purchase if we get the bigger tractor. Because right now, our 55 horse tractor can handle this 7-foot, but it cannot handle an 8-foot. Now, they're telling me that a 70 or 75 horse tractor, which is what these bids are, can handle an 8-foot. So, you know, it's like the difference in night and day as far as what you can do.
What's the price on these?
The one we have, we paid, I think, $5,000 for it, and the price on the, on the 8-foot is, I believe, $6,900 is what he told me. But he also told me, the guy that sells these told me, if we get ready to do this, that he can sell ours for probably $3,500. So we'll get a lot of that money back.
About $3,000 in there.
Right. And the same as with the tractor. You know, we have 2 tractors out there now, and we have one old one that doesn't have any brakes, you know, had a lot of problems. I would recommend selling it and keeping the better of the 2 so we can continue.
What are you guesstimating we can get for that one tractor you're gonna sell?
Gosh, I don't know, I'm not in the,
I looked at it, probably 3,500 to $5,000.
So we could at least pay for the difference on this at some point.
well, with the sale of the old drag and the old tractor, sure, they would take it on. You're gonna have somebody that we gotta work with.
Okay. I guess we just need to decide if do we want to go forward. And I'm not saying this because Kenneth is here. I'm hearing this from other people. One of the things that they talked about at one point in time is we need to go in there and tear out all the dirt out of that arena and replace it. And I thought, man, that's going to be pretty.
That's a $20,000 job.
Exactly, and that's what we found out, it'd be around 20 to 30,000 actually.
Right.
So if you think this would fit that bill, I would like for us to think long-term on some of the unanticipated revenue we've got coming in this year. Again, we got 515,000 from the wind farm this year. We're getting at least around 250,000. I'm going to just be conservative on what the LCDC is bringing in to us each month. We could actually buy a tractor for 1 month, basically, thereabouts. What we did last month?
Last month we got 31,000.
31,000 last month, and this is unanticipated revenue the county's getting.
Well, now you said, you were mentioning the ground, and I agree. We were getting, everybody that came there was complaining, but it all changed when we got this drag. So this design of drag changed our whole situation with their ground out there. It really did.
I'm ready to hear from y'all.
In your opinion, which are you leaning towards, the John Deere? Or
Well, we don't have to make this decision today, of course. Murray was telling me about, he's looked at some case tractors, and I didn't even look into that, but, we might want to do a little more shopping. I don't know. If I was forced to say between the Kubota and the John Deere, I would go with the John Deere because of my experience with it. I mean, we've got a tractor out there that's been worked 2 or 3 hours a day for 12 years, and it's still together.
I guess my only concern is we bought a big John Deere and then we bought a smaller Kubota. Our Kubota is only about 2 years old. Our John Deere, we just paid it actually off. We just ran into a lot of problems right now, and that's about to go back to John Deere. And I know that could happen, on anything, and I'm comparing, a big tractor to a smaller tractor, but, we're thinking about trading in the John Deere, and we've had a lot of people recommend Case, here.
Well, there again, I wouldn't mind looking into that before we do something.
Based on our purchasing policy, if we're not going out for bids and because it is under the 50,000, it's best if we have 3 quotes. So if maybe you could go ahead and get
Joe
a
Pearson,
quote.
third quote.
Well, I think it sounded like the Case is gonna be cheaper than what we're talking about.
Whenever I was looking for a personal one, the Case was considerably cheaper with all the options and everything else, but I don't know now what the price.
I don't know how it is now, but growing up, it was Case International, and then before that was International, And so we're talking about those kind of tractors, and they were very common back then.
Let me say that it's not that I'm for Kubota, but let me just say that guy has called me almost daily, promising that if we have a flat tire, he'll come get it and fix it.
On your tractor.
No, on whatever we're gonna buy.
Oh,
We're gonna buy Kubota.
Okay.
I don't know,
Well, I tell you, the salesman that I've been talking to, I guess the same one, Jeff House, he's pretty aggressive,
now this is the owner of the company, so.
Oh, okay.
Let me say this, we've got to get a third
Yeah.
bid anyway, so why don't you go back out and get a bid from Case, and let's see what they are.
But I definitely personally would like to move forward with this, but getting another bid and then we can go.
That's fine with me.
Something we're definitely gonna do, we just need to get the best buy.
Well, I think
we need to buy the better drag if we're gonna buy the bigger tractor.
Well, the last event Bobby Joe had over there, he brought his tractor to drag because he knew that he could go in there and work that ground quicker during the event. And it makes a lot of difference. It really
Well,
does.
and we talked about this, and I think Commissioner Forrest and I agree on this. We're at about a $70,000 a year deficit on the fairground, okay? And the expenses are not going down that much. What we gotta focus on is how to bring the revenue in. And that's where Limestone County needs to be, is what can we do to bring more revenue in so that it's the difference in what our expenses are and what we bring in a year can get down. One of it's gonna be to make sure our grounds. Second thing is maybe at this next budget, focus some money onto some more RV slots out there. We may want to look at some kind of looking at a new sound system. But at the same time, we want to try to make sure that that is one of the best assets we have in this county.
Well, obviously, to me, I'll reiterate, the ground is most important because I'll tell you, all you have to do is have one bad reference to it. And most people talk, and they say, well, let's go to the grocery. No, the ground not. Well, we don't want them saying that, so we gotta do everything we can to protect that.
Let's go ahead and, does anybody have anything else they want to talk about?
I've looked at the ground out there, and in my opinion, we need to add more sand to it, for one thing. With the Net McCloskey, they do the horse project, 4-H horse project on Tuesdays, we're going out there meeting with them, and my girls are gonna start riding on Tuesdays. It's clumped up too much, and horse people really are particular about their dirt, especially when you're dealing with a $30,000-$40,000 appendix or something like that they're running with. So we need to, in the future, maybe look at that too. I think this tractor and a new drag will help, but in my opinion, there's a little bit too much clay in the dirt out there.
Yeah, this drag's on that,
Yeah.
bigger drag, sure, but,
Kenneth, question, you've got 2 tractors now, we get rid of the old one and we talk about selling this and the old tractor and it would pay for that. With this new tractor, you still need to keep a second tractor.
we really do, because, of what all we do, we have to water the ground, so we have.
So you got different things hooked together.
Yes, and right now, the older tractor, which has no brakes, we use it for the sprayer. But, if we got rid of it, and kept the other one, we could use it for multiple things and save our new tractor.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and, go ahead.
Well, I move that we table this, so we get their bid in the next meeting.
All right. We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay. We got, I think we can, we've got about 10 minutes, we'll keep going on the current issues. Number 12 is, let's go ahead and, did we vote on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next item that we're gonna talk about today is the county's health insurance. We got our renewal in this year, whereas last year we had a decrease in our health insurance. This year, it's around a 13% increase. We're going from around $805 currently to over $900 a month per employee. I have contacted TAC and threatened them that we're going to look around, see if we can find a better price. Not saying that I am, but I have found that sometimes with dealing in the insurance world, if you can squeeze them a little bit, it always helps. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is how good of a health insurance program we have for our employees. From someone that sells this, or used to sell it, I guess still does sell it, and knows about health insurance, this is one of the richest plans out there today. I'm not trying to call that. It's a 90-10 plan with 690, I think it's deductible. Very attractive plan for our employees in Limestone County. However, I just wanted y'all to know that we did get the renewal in. Normally we just go on, not worry about it because it's usually minimal. But this year was such, I wanted y'all to know that it was on the increase was 12%, excuse me, 12%. My question to TAC, and I can't get this answered, but we're getting quite a bit of money from COVID right now, for the effects that COVID had. And my question is, could the rate increase that we will have to live with from now on be attributed to the COVID claims that we had for Limestone County? And I just know it is. There's no doubt in my mind that we had people going to the hospital getting all kinds of treatments because of COVID. And so I'm asking, can we use some of that, or if they would renegotiate this down and wait on next year to come in? Because I don't want this to just be we got a big increase in our property insurance, our automobile insurance is staying about the same. But anyway, I wanted y'all to be aware of this and to bring it up. I don't think we actually have to take any action, because I'm gonna wait till we get back from tax, if they'll go down off that 12%. Does anybody have any questions on the health insurance? If not, then I said we should go ahead and pass that for now and go to item number 13. We've got a lot of salary adjustments and budget transfers, and what happens is when you try to get a budget each year and get it as close to what it takes to run a county, it cannot be etched in stone. And so there's going to be times when we need to transfer some money around and make sure that it fits. When I'm preparing the budget right now, I'll make sure I take these into consideration next year. Let's go down the list real quick. Item number 13 is discussing the action on salary adjustment. That's at the jail. That's going to be for Tiffany Thompson. I believe she got a 3-year step. Anybody have a
So moved.
okay. Second. Motion and a second to approve that salary adjustment. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next item is gonna be a budget transfer number 510. That's gonna be from the district clerk. Is she here today? Okay. One of the things she's doing is to cover excess postage usage and additional records management. She's asking that we move some money around from her postage and then also decrease her deputy district clerk's salary. And then put the extra labor at 4,000. As y'all know, one of the things she did was when she lost Toby Edwards and went to Indigent Health, she did not hire anybody right away because we wanted to save that money. Now she's kind of getting to the point where she needs to do something, so I certainly recommend that we approve this.
So,
We do have a motion and a second to approve this budget transfer. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay. Let's look at the next one. The next one's going to be from the county extension office. That's going to be budget transfer 511. They are needing to increase their postage and increase the office supply and furniture equipment increase. So moved. Got a motion?
second.
In a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. We'll continue on then to the road and bridge area. Road and bridge is asking for a budget transfer number 512, and that's going to cover the shortage in the uniform line. Y'all will know more about this than I do, because I don't understand the uniform. Is that $6,000 they're taking out of their contingencies to buy more shop uniforms? When Jerry was here, I thought something maybe y'all would know about this.
I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I make a motion to table it until Jerry can explain before he goes.
All right, we have a motion to table it.
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll go to item number 17. This is going to be a budget transfer from the communication center. One of the things that we find hard to do out there is to argue with the sheriff's department and the jail and the dispatch. They are 24/7 folks that have to be there. And we have some holiday pay that they need to increase. And they did have some extra labor that they're decreasing, so they're asking to move that money around and pay the folks that have to work here on holidays.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. Let's go to number 18. That's for the sewer. Number 18 is the victim witness coordinator. She is asking to cover shortage of postage line and 2 upcoming conferences. The increase to the conference, and she's getting that money out of the county travel. In addition, she's getting money out of supplies and putting it over to postage. And that seems to be one of the areas that we're falling short of this year is postage in a lot of areas. So we'll make sure that we can bump that up a little bit next year. But this is for some training that she feels like she needs.
So
We do have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Next is from the auditor. The auditor says she is, budget transfer number 515 says she needs to cover the cost of calculator, chair, and filing cabinets. She's needing $1,000 to do that. She's getting that from her conference schools and dues line item. One thing I want to always remind y'all is that when we're doing transfers, we're not affecting the budget. We're just transferring from one line to the other. We're doing stuff legal. She feels like she's going to have $1,000 left out of that conference schools and dues. We need to, any discussion?
some
Do we have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, let's keep going. Number 20 is going to be a request from JP1 that's going to be to cover the cost of needed office supplies. It looks like they are a little short in their office supplies this year. and they're needing to decrease their conference in schools and increase the office supply line.
Make that motion to approve that transfer.
You hear that motion?
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Let's go into the next one. Ms. Burgess.
It's 10 o'clock. That's when we're supposed to do the RFPs.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead, we've only got two more of these, I'm gonna break it up. Next item is the law enforcement, they need to cover their furnishings, the vacant office and desk and chair. Murray, I think you've got, Mr. Lorraine out there is gonna be moved to another area. Be a little more isolated, and you need some, furniture to make sure that it works. In addition, the salaries of the, 15,000 is gonna be for the extra labor. I know you're awful short right now on your deputies, so we're not gonna be going over on any particular salary, we're just trying to move it around.
No, sir. We have several open spots. Some we hadn't been able to fill for the whole year.
Yeah.
We're gonna move some of that money, with y'all's permission, to extra labor.
Yes.
To pay a little more overtime than what we've been paying, and that will also keep down the comp time.
So moved. Second. Motion and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Let's go ahead and take care of this last, transfer, and then we'll go over to North Indian. This is gonna be from the treasurer's office, she's needing to go to cost of repair of a shredder. She's, once again, the office and schools are taking the money that they budgeted for that, and putting it over to the repair equipment. So, do you have a motion? And a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now then, we're gonna move over to item number 25. Consider discussion and possible action on the award of Limestone County Jail inmate telephone service contract license. Per notice of request for proposal. Proposal will be open in open court at 10 a.m. I've got a fixed at 10 a.m. We'll go ahead and open those up. Tasha, how you wanna do that? Got a knife?
We have some scissors or whatever, or not there. I'm gonna hand this down, and the judge and the commissioners would also sign, it's just saying who's present during the opening.
Okay. One of the things, let me just start off by saying that today we'll open these up. You're able to look at anything you want to. In years past, we have sent this over to a law firm, Haley Olson, and let them look at everything, see how it looks as far as, meeting all the specifications, and then they'll come back to us if that sounds like something I might want to do with, possibly.
There's multiple in here.
Got it. One for everybody.
There's the, it says original.
That's the original. That's the original.
Lauren, did you want to?
Yes, ma'am. Pretty nice notebook.
Did you ever get one?
I don't know that I have 100% of it. I wish I had one.
Terrible. You get family this one.
I don't know, so if we need anything else.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and announce that we did get one Crown directional telephone. Here also. Okay. Now you get the award for the national book.
That's the original.
We amended this, how long ago, Murray? A year and a half ago, 2 years?
2 years has been good.
This is how it was delivered to us.
Yeah.
So, I'm not, each one is in a seal.
Any of them want to do?
No.
Good job.
Looks like you're all set.
For the record, the second one was from Sidnet. Is there a representative from Sidnet here?
Joe, I think the only other representative here is from CDC.
Okay. I just don't want to leave anybody out. Is this you? It is? And then, what's that under come? CDC. Judge? Yeah. This is from Securus. Put a bid in. Down to forward. So important that you read every page. That's one of my favorite. As y'all can see, the amount of folks that we had bid on this, it's evidently very lucrative to have this contract, and we want to make sure that we're doing what's best for Limestone County. This is from NCIC, Inmate Communications. And then open it, we'll have we'll look at it. Is this something that y'all want to see what everybody did today? Is that something y'all already put in? So what we probably do once we get them all passed out, we'll see if we can, it's going to be awful hard with all the different ramifications to compare apple to apple that you don't know. This is from, this is another one from NCIC.
No, that's the same one. I just gave you the original. These are the copies you got on the original commission.
And this is good. This is from CTEL. Is there an original from CTEL?
They're not marked.
They're not, okay. We get another one with that CTEL. I feel like Christmas like that, you know. Let me have another one from CTEL. What we'll do then, at that meeting, if y'all want to, stay in here, we'll open them up. Again, it'll be a situation where we're probably going to give this to an attorney to go through and make sure all the specifications are met. That's all we've done in the past. Any other? Something.
That should be 6.
All right, we had 6 bids. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 here. And once again, like I said, if any of y'all have any questions right now, I'm happy to do it. But my thought might be that if y'all would like to do that, does that sound acceptable to y'all? That we just sit in here after the meeting and actually open them up and let y'all see what everybody did. Okay, all right. Okay, we got those, at least those done. We thank y'all for bidding all the telephone communications. Let's go ahead then at this time and consider authorizing number 23, consider authorizing a setting date of July 27th for a public hearing and publication notice. Such hearing in the newspaper and general circulation on the creation of a reinvestment zone for the purpose of tax abatement provided economic development in the county. I need to make sure we get that done. So moved. Second. Motion and a second. Any other discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed then? All right, number 24, we're going to consider and take possible action to give notice to other taxing jurisdictions of possible tax abatement pursuant to chapter 320 of the Texas Tax Code. Got this primarily, we're gonna let everybody else taxing and know that we are going to possibly give this, payment of taxes to, the phase 2 of the wind farm. Anybody wanna make a motion to approve that? So please, we have to do it, I mean, well, I know that, I'm waiting for that, wait, someone else make a motion. All right. Second. We do have a motion and a couple seconds. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right. I think that'll take care of.
Judge,
Yes, go ahead.
can we return to item 16?
Yes, sir.
I checked with Robbie, on the open bids, and these are not just shop uniforms, these are uniforms for all the employees of Road and Bridge. This is the shortage they have, some bills actually, and that's what I was gonna ask Natasha earlier. These are actually some bills that are here that need to be paid, and this will should finish out the year barring any, increases they may have between now and October 1.
Yes, they've called for POs, and so since there's not enough money drawn,
Yeah,
Okay,
so that, I kind of figured they already PO'd, we couldn't pay it.
So here's my question. We budgeted this money last year for uniforms. Was that $6,000 less than we normally budgeted? My question is, why do we now have $6,000 more than what we were doing?
Now, this is out of Robbie's mouth. Now, I had certainly seen the figure. She said, when our budget was done last October, our budget for uniforms was cut. And like we said then, it wasn't gonna make it to the end of the year, and in fact, it helped.
I'm just trying to figure out, the only reason.
But it is for everybody,
The only
it's
reason-
shop uniforms.
The only reason it would have been cut is because they didn't spend it.
maybe so, because it's, maybe last year, because it's not that they are required to have the uniforms, but most of the Road and Bridge employees do. And what it is my understanding of the uniforms is they wear the uniforms that are provided, and then this company comes, picks them up, cleans them, and brings them back.
Okay.
And so that's the monthly charge of the cleaning and the maintaining. If they get tears in them and stuff, then they do, like on a pair of jeans or
So
shirt.
They have bills now that they can't pay POs, and obviously we still have.
Do you want to make a motion to, remove that from the table? We did take it out. Did someone say they made that motion? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear. Okay, got a motion? And a second. Okay, now then, let's go ahead and, all in favor of, removing that, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Now then, let's go back to item number 16. That's going to be budget transfer 512, where they're asking for a $6,000 transfer. I need to ask your, thoughts on that.
So moved.
Okay. Motion and second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. That being the case, unless anybody wants to go back on anything else, the next item is item number 26, adjournment. Is there a motion? Then nobody wants, oh, you did find a second. All right. Motion and second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? And we'll stand adjourned. Thank y'all very much. Hope you do all this right here. I'm gonna stay in here and you're gonna actually open this up. And y'all are more than welcome to come up here and maybe sit. Everybody.
Did I get any cars in yet?